Welcome to I Got the Smokes, Let's Ride podcast with me, BTCG, episode 027. That's right, 27. This one will be in the books. So 26 are in the books. We're getting at 27. And I got already the Live Life Bowl down here on the bottom. It is 5 o'clock. It is time to get in that car, clock out, and go home or wherever you go. Just get away from work, right? Get to living. The weekend is here. This is 4th of July weekend 2025. That's what I'm talking about. I love the little touchpad. I don't use it much because people don't like it, but I love it. I do. But it's time to start that celebration. Hopefully, you've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Hopefully, you didn't have to work today. Hopefully, the grill is already grilling. The fireworks are already firing. You still got all 10 fingers, and tomorrow morning you will as well. Hopefully, you've got some great cigars in your mouth. But I want to talk to you about a cigar, and I want to tell you some cautionary tales. Cautionary tales. I've only got an hour to tell you stories, and I got 2 hours worth. So I'm going to talk fast. So you listen quick, right? Because this is going to be a fun episode. But like I said, it is a cautionary tale. I have in my hand right now, if you're driving, don't look. Hopefully you're not driving. Hopefully you're home. A big old firework, the Power Thrust. I tried to do the thing from Joe Dirt with the Whizzy Bangers and the Whisker Do's and this and that and the Whisker Don'ts. And I couldn't figure out how to put it on the computer. I needed Chief, and Chief is enjoying his 4th of July weekend as he should with his family. So, it says on here, use only under close adult supervision. I'm sorry. That right there is the dumbest warning or caution on almost any product I've ever seen other than don't use a hairdryer in the tub. Anyway, because more adults mess up with fireworks than kids do. Oh my gosh. You get a bunch of redneck fellers together or anybody else, and you get that bonfire going, and you get that PBR flowing, and things start happening, right? It says, don't hold in your hand, put it on a flat concrete surface, blah, 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 blah. And it also says, some of the fireworks likes to say, do not use under the influence of everything. But good stories don't get told if you're not under the influence of something, because you got to have something to blame, right? At least I did. And I'm going to tell some of these stories. I'm going to spill the tea. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to be transparent and honest because I have some stories in my crazy youth growing up as a country boy down in Florida with a country family where the bonfires you could see from space. That's right. We didn't do we didn't have a fire ring, right? We had pine trees over the bonfire, and all the branches on the sides of the pine trees were burnt off because we would have flames would reach literally 20 feet. We get mechanics wire, and we would cut down branches the size of your wrist. No, the size of your ankle, maybe your calf. And we would braid them together like a teepee. We cram it full of stuff. And I'll tell you what, that makes a cone of flame that is impressive. And then we would start throwing stuff on there. And of course, somebody would start throwing fireworks into it. Firecrackers, M80s, jumping jacks. You get in trouble. Mama yell at you for jumping jacks, but right. You're sitting around the fire on the cooler and you're drinking too many libations and you can't move real fast. That's when your friends come up and say, hey, watch this. And they go throw a pack of black cats into the fire. And you try to get up. You can't get up. You fall back on the cooler. You and the cooler go back because your butt never lifted off the cooler, and you're laying there backwards. The water's starting to come out of the cooler, and all your friends do is they grab you by the hands and they pull you back up, keep you on the cooler, and keep you going. Then they pick you up, stand you up, grab another cold one, and keep on keeping on. I'm telling you what, this story is not something in hyperbole. This is not something I've made up. This is something that I have been a part of. I'm not telling you if I was the guy sitting on the cooler. I was. Or I was the guy picking them up, or the guy throwing the fireworks into the fire, which I did a lot of that. Boy, did I get in some trouble. Mama had a big property, about 5 acres. And all the family and the friends would get together. And we would do our 4th of July there. We'd cook out. But the cookout wasn't, the food was great. All right, don't let me back up off of that. The food was fantastic, right? I mean, everything had parents except for tater salad and macaroni salad and whatever that vegetable relish tray was. I'd eat the pickles, but that'd be about it. Everybody else, the ladies would usually eat the vegetables. No, I want stuff with parents. I want stuff with barbecue sauce slathered on it so deep that I can't tell where the sauce stops and the meat starts. That's what I'm talking about, right? That's 4th of July. And we'd smoke cigars and we'd light fireworks with cigars. And we would all bring a bunch of fireworks. It was a one-upmanship. Everybody that brought fireworks would try to bring more than the other guy. So we had the best, biggest booms there was. And we had some acreage. We're in the country. I had 5 acres. We're in the country. And so we'd start setting off fireworks when the sun started going down. We never waited till the sun to go completely down because we were just ready to set stuff off. Right. And we were already seeing, and you look at the tables of fireworks, and you'd see twice as many because you had been under the influence of just a little bit of maybe your friend Jack and maybe some Southern Comfort in your repertoire, a little Bacardi maybe, Captain Morgan's, PBR, whatever we had is whatever we brought because everybody brought something to drink, something to eat, and something to set on fire. That's right. And so we would have a good old time till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And one of the stories I'm going to tell you a couple stories. So one of the stories I'm going to tell you is the battle between us and the neighbors. They had 5-6 acres and they had a compound. There's all family on that side. We moved in when I was a teenager, and you had to come past our house to get down the rest of the dirt road. And I'm talking about them sandy Florida dirt roads where your feet cave in, right? Big footprints. And lots of stickers on the ground. You didn't walk around on the barefoot because you'd get those dang sand spurs in your feet. That kind of Florida, right? Big oak trees with the moss hanging down. And you go past our house, and that started the family property. It was probably in this 5-acre plot. There was, I don't know, 5-10 trailers, and then beyond that was other family that had made more money, and they had better houses and this and that. But it was blue collar country for sure. And by the way, before I start getting into this story, excuse me, this show is brought to you by our friends at Camacho. That's right. You smoke cigars, light up a Camacho or a Davidoff or a Zeno or a Avo or what? That's right, a Baccarat. If you've been here for a while, I leave that one out so that you can say it with me, the Baccarat, right? So it is a great cigar to light fireworks with. This is the Camacho 2025 limited edition. Now, every year Camacho will come out with the Camacho holiday cigar, the Liberty cigar, right? It come in a little coffin, it had a funky little shape, and it was for the 4th of July holiday, the Liberty series. Sometimes it had a pin, all sorts of cool stuff. Well, this year they decided to take a left from the Liberty series and come up to the Camacho 2025 limited edition cigar. Delicious, delightful, lovely, good size cigar. Nice, heavy, full body cigar. So if it goes out because you've been talking too much or drinking too much, or you set it on the stump and you went in the house to go to the bathroom and you came back out and forgot about it for a couple minutes and picked it up, you can relight it. You drop it a couple times. I highly wouldn't recommend purposely dropping it, but you drop it a couple times, pick it up, dust it off, and keep on getting, right? Why not? You could even dip it in barbecue sauce if you want to and have a barbecue infused cigar. That sounds good. I wouldn't do it, but that does sound good. So we had one year, oh my gosh, went to South Carolina. Now I'm in South Carolina now, but South Carolina has the fireworks that are mortars that burst in the air. In Florida, you really can't get them. They don't want to fly. They them ground things, right? They sparkle and pop and make all the noise. It's great for kids. It's a great starter. It's a great warm up. It's a great, the fireworks going to start in a couple minutes. Let me go pee. Let me get my drink. Let me get another plate because I'm going to sit here and chill out and watch these goofballs set off all these fireworks, and hopefully we don't have to call EMS. Luckily, we had a lot of medical professionals in our family, so we had it covered anyway. We didn't need to call nobody. We take care of ourselves. But, which happens sometimes. But you set off those little ground things. You have the ones you throw in the fire, which you're not supposed to after adult supervision. You throw them in the fire. You let the kids play with the little jumping jacks or the snapping pops or the little things that you light and it looks like a black snake where it's just this thing that keeps bubbling up out of this little black hockey puck, a little small hockey puck, right? Size of a kindergarten pencil. Around stack of dimes, maybe stack of 6 or 7 dimes. That's about how big it was. You light the end of it and it would just bubble up and people think it was cool. We used to use those and I'm telling myself when it wasn't 4th of July, we put them in people's mailboxes because they smoke like a beast. We put them in people's mailboxes and it would make all their stuff stink forever. Yeah, I was a bad kid because smoke bombs were more expensive than those where you could buy a box of those for $0.25 and you had like enough for 15 mailboxes. You buy a smoke bomb, you're paying 50 cents a smoke bomb and budget be budgeting, right? I mean, come on. Problem is, smoke bomb you could light real quick, throw it in there and go. Get on your bike and keep pedaling. Yeah, back then we rode our bikes everywhere around the sidewalks, but that was good living. No video games. With these things, you had to kind of light the edge to get it lit, and then you had to stack the other ones on top of it just right, or they wouldn't catch, right? So, I mean, you had to stand there. So there was a little risk. You had to be bold. You had to live life bold. Camacho, right? Not that kids should be smoking Camacho cigars. Camacho cigars and all cigars are an adult opportunity to enjoy their day. It has a warning that says under adult supervision, but all right. Okay. Fireworks do not use in moderation. Cigars smoke in moderation, like Mark Twain said, one cigar at a time. Okay. So, anyway, the sun is going down and we volleyed off all the little cute little poppy, sparkly, whizzy, stay on the ground stuff. Had a couple of those tanks because you buy the big packs and it comes with a couple of stupid tanks you light and it rolls like 5 feet and then it pops off sparklers at the end. Poo. Had little rocket things that fly across the bottom or all those other little junky stuff that they're not worth anything. But when you spend $300 for a big old thing, you want to make sure you got, and it says 175 pieces. Well, a lot of those pieces ain't much we're talking about. 35 worth of good ones and the rest of them 140 just meh, right? But when you buy, excuse me, when you buy amongst all your hillbilly friends 6 or 7 packs of those, you end up with something. So we were down to the point where we had jumping jacks, where you'd light them on fire and they would spin and bounce up in the air a little bit, and they'd set off the pretty color sparklers. The girls like those a lot, but we got bored with just setting them off one at a time. There's too many of them, and we wanted to get to the bigger stuff. You can't get the bigger stuff till you get rid of the little stuff, because once you go to the big stuff, you don't want to go to the little stuff, and so you just want to do the good stuff last, right? Right. So we would come up with creative ways to do that. And so we would take tennis rackets. Don't do this. Okay, let me go ahead and do this disclaimer. Everything that I'm telling you that we did, I am telling you not to do. Do not do it and say, Bob the cigar guy told me to do it. I have no fingers because of him. No, if you do it, it's because you did it, not me. I'm telling you, don't do it. Follow all approved listed recommendations. Use common sense. Have boring stories. My stories did not follow any recommendations and are not boring. So we got the jumping jacks and we decided we wanted to make them fly. So we found an old beat up tennis racket. I don't know why we had a tennis racket in the house or in the garage, in the shed, because nobody played tennis. I think my mom had it from when I was small, and they decided they wanted to do something for health, her and my dad. And so they decided to take up tennis. And I think those went half a dozen times and there was no more tennis and they'd just been sitting there forever. So I found this tennis racket, dusted it off, got rid of the spider. And we took the tennis racket and I would hold it behind me flat. All right. Imagine this. I've got the tennis racket. I've got the hands on the end of my arms. But that was stupid. I got the hands up in the air, and the tennis racket is flat like a fritter behind me. And they put a pack of jumping jacks on the tennis racket with the fuse sticking below the strings of the racket. I want to call them wires. That'd be stupid. The strings of the racket, and then they would light it and they would say, go. Well, the first time we did it, they said go, and it was right after they lit it, and I slung it, and the whole pack went up in the air, and the whole pack came down on the ground, and then they all just did the whizzy, whizzy, zizzy, zizzy on the ground, which was like, that sucked. And so he said, "Oh, what the problem is we're not waiting long enough." Here's where the story starts to get interesting. So they're not waiting long enough. So I said, "All right." So I didn't come in my mind. I had a little liquid courage on board. I won't take that away. Adult supervision was not adulting. And so I waited until the sparks started, and I felt the sparks kind of on the back of my neck, and then I slung them. Well, boy, howdy. It looked like lightning bugs on speed. It was crazy. They flew everywhere. I mean, they took off. Flew at the people at the bonfire, made them all scream and laugh. Flew towards the chicken coop. We had chicken coop. Flew towards the water pump house. Hoped it wouldn't go in the water pump house and start a fire in the water pump house because we needed the water well. And yeah, I'm telling you, we country. We was country. Everybody loved it. And the worst thing that could have happened at that point is even the ladies were clapping and hooting and hollering and thought it was great. And we had a mountain of jumping jacks. And so then if one guy does it, the other guy has to do it. And as you know, competition is deep. It's extremely deep in the Finley DNA. And so we'd have to do better. 1 pack, 2 pack, 3 pack, 4. And so we got to a point to where the whole tennis racket was covered in packs of jumping jacks, and it was kind of like a star shape so that all of the wicks were facing each other. Because in theory, if you put all the wicks through that one square hole between the strings, then when you lit it with the lighter, then all of them would light. Well, this worked pretty good with 2 and 3 and 4. I had to do more, and so I put however many, probably 7 or 8. I said, "All right, get ready, light me." Well, they light it, and one of them didn't light, and the other guy who had some liquid courage on board said, "Wait, it didn't light, it didn't light, it didn't light." And I said, "Light it, light it, light it, light it." And now these other ones are lit. The fuse is going, and that's a tiny Chinese fuse. You don't know how long it's going to last. It's not going to last long. And some of them will just race, and then you're in big trouble. But anyway, by the time he got the last one lit, the first ones had started. And one of those heifers flew halfway up in the air, hit me in the back of the head, went down the back of my shirt. And so now, as I awkwardly sling the tennis racket full of jumping jacks, do not try this. It ends up flying towards the people at the bonfire. And there's one in the back of my back. And so I start going through this demon possessed looking seizure of trying to get this jumping jack out of the back of my shirt, hoping it does not go into the bottom of my shorts. It did not go into the bottom of my shorts, but it took a dance around my back. And boy, I'll tell you what, there's a reason why there are warnings on those, because that jumping jack ate me up. I had achy spots on my back for a week. Tell you what. So common sense would dictate, don't do that anymore. Right? I tell you, my last name is Finley. We don't do well with common sense. I think on our family crest it should be, if you're gonna be dumb, you ought to be tough. I'm a lot tougher than I am smart. Either one of those would fit just right. Hey fellas, watch this. That's where it came from, I believe. So, laughing, having a great time. A little more liquid courage. So we're gonna try it again. Well, now the fellas, we done got smart. I say smart. relatively. Hey, fellers, tuck in your shirt. Pull your shirt down tight, and then the collar won't be loose and it can't go down your collar. It'll just bounce off your back. These are guys telling each other that, hey, these fireworks are going to pelt you in the back of your head. And the best way to stop the mitigation of bad things happening is to keep doing it, but just tighten your shirt. And all of us are like, that's a great idea. I don't know who had the brain at that moment, but they weren't using it. I think we had a community brain and it was taking a break. And so we proceeded. At the end of the fireworks, we're getting tired of doing jumping jacks. We want to do something more. We decided to stack up stacks on stacks on stacks of these jumping jacks and set them loose. And craziness, pandemonium ensued. And some of the stacks of the jumping jacks didn't fire, even though the fuse burnt halfway, but it didn't burn all the way. And then what are we going to do? Well, we can't waste the jumping jacks. So a guy would go up with a lighter and he would try to light the thing, and as soon as it lit, it would take off, and then they have to run and scream and have a good time. So that was hilarity and fun. At this point, Mom had already come over to me and she said, Bobby, that's what she called me. She says, Bobby, I need y'all to move back. Y'all need to get farther away from us. Well, you get farther away from us. My mama loved me. But she knew that I was going to do stupid things, and she just didn't want everybody else impacted. So we had kids running around and everything else. And setting great examples for the children, by the way. By the way, this Camacho is smoking deliciously. Highly recommend that today, 4th of July, you're smoking a Camacho. Today, I hope you're smoking something, but a Camacho would be a great thing to smoke. Post up lots of pictures. People need to see the great things that you do and the great life that you live, because you do great things and you live a great life. I believe that. So put up on Facebook for all of us to enjoy the bountiful harvest of your silliness and awesomeness. So that's not where it stops. That's just jumping jacks. We haven't even got into the mortars yet. Oh, the mortars. Now, I got to be careful I don't tell too many stories, because number one, I don't know what the what's that word? Where you can't get charged for the crime because it's been too long. One of those things. Statute of limitations, right? I gotta make sure there's no statute of limitations. But I only have 38 minutes left, and I'm telling you, I could tell you 5 hours worth of stories. If we ever get together and smoke a cigar, which I hope happens in real life, in person, whether you come to the studio, you meet me at an event or something like that, or we just hang out at your house. If you ask me about some fireworks stories, I'll tell you some stories. And there's some other stories. We'll sit and talk, or I'll sit and listen, because I love to hear about you and your stories, because I bet your stories are better than mine. I bet they're not as painful and cautionary as mine are, because you're smarter than I am. That's not that hard to be, by the way. So all the jumping jacks are gone. All the little tanks are gone. The little snakes are gone. All the little this and that are gone. Now we're stepping up to some bigger stuff. Well, one of the fellers that year, brought over a full bundle, must have been 100, of 20 count Roman candles. Now, on the Roman candle, it says, do not hold in your hand. Now, my brother-in-law knew, because it was his friend that brought him, and knew it was coming. And so what he did was, after we shot up some Roman candles where you just kind of mount them in the ground, and then you're going to pick them up and hold them and shoot them in the sky, and everybody thinks it's cool and stuff. He got some PVC pipe, and he had cut the PVC pipe and taped another piece of PVC pipe onto it, to where we could put the Roman candle in it, and we could run around with it like guns and shoot at each other with Roman candles. Did I tell you we weren't very smart? It also held black cats and bottle rockets. You could put a big old bottle rocket in that thing, and you could launch it at somebody. Yeah. Cautionary tale, don't do anything that I'm telling you that I did. I am not condoning that you behave in these behaviors. I am not. But we did. And so we got to shooting these things, and you count. I think it was 20 count. And so when they were done, you pitch that one off and you pull the other one out of your back pocket. I want you to think about this. You pull it out of your back pocket. You got fireworks in your back pocket, in your sit-upon, with a bunch of friends who have been consuming way too much liquid courage, acting a fool, and the brain is in a box somewhere that we're all sharing and it's not being used. So you start shooting them at each other, and we have a good time, and then we get bored. And I'm not going to say I was the one that did it because I don't know the statute of limitations, but I'm not going to say I wasn't. Somebody was sitting there, standing there, having a little bit of hydration, adult hydration. You got to hydrate. It's hot. It's Florida, 4th of July. And they had some Roman candles in their back pocket. Fuses sticking up. Stupid boy. Stupid boy. He only had one. If he would have had more, it would have been worse. But the Roman candle was sitting in his back pocket with a fuse sticking out. A pair of good jeans. They were good jeans. They quality control tested these jeans to be tough. Inside of the pocket, especially. Did I tell you he was hydrating at the time? He had been hydrating. He was very hydrated, adult-wise. And so somebody, maybe me, maybe not, quietly walked up behind him while his friends, our friends, we're all friends, saw what this person was doing with his lighter, and they did not tell him. And they walked up behind him. This person walked up behind him and set the Roman candle fuse to light. That's right. Now, in thinking about it, with common sense and without this mob mentality with no brain, I would have thought about the mechanics of the Roman candle, because you light the tail end and the fuse goes up to the front end and it lights off the Roman candle. That's how these were set up. Some are set up differently, where the front end is where the Roman candles were, where the firing end was. But this was the opposite. The fuse went from the back side to the front side. And so a couple seconds later goes on. The feller's none the wiser. And all of a sudden, there goes the first Roman candle that went off in his pocket. Another one. By the fourth or fifth one, he's noticing that his sit-upon is getting extremely warm, and it's not the sun beating down on his butt because the sun has gone down. He figures out that I have pyrotechnics going off in my pants. Maybe good for different types of videos, but not for the videos or the life that we were living, right? He proceeds to not take the candle out of the back of his pants. He proceeds to drop his beverage and excuse me, and start running around, smacking his butt. And all his friends are laughing hysterically. At this point, probably 15 or 16 Roman candles have gone off in his sit-upon. There's black charring and sparks coming out the back of the pocket. And he is beating his tail for all it's worth. Finally, at the very end, he grabs it, pulls it out, and it goes off 3 or 4 times. I wish I could say, to end this story perfectly, that when he threw it down, it would have went and shot towards the group that were laughing hysterically at the bonfire, but it didn't. It just took off and it flew. Well, he got up laughing. You think that'd be a fighting offense, right? You just set my butt on fire. No, he got up laughing. Actually, through the rest of the night, it was kind of awkward. He kept pulling down his pants and said, "Look at the black spot on my butt." He was blistered up, boy. He was blistered on his tailbone pretty bad. And it was funny. It was a badge of honor. He had got that butt burnt. And it hurt him for a while, too. Thought he was going to have to go to the doctor eventually, but we tougher than we are smart, right? Put a little salve on it and let her eat. So, although that didn't go perfectly into the crowd that was laughing and having a great time, it did do the next best thing to set up this next part of the story. Told you we had neighbors on the other side of the fence, cattle fence, old cow fence, right? Wooden posts, red line fence. We always use red line, that good solid wire, right? If you country know what I'm talking about. Well, the neighbors don't want to be undone. Their people are enjoying our festivities, and so they're sitting out there setting off their fireworks, and we're doing our fireworks, and it's getting better and better and better and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the libations are flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing. Well, when that young man dropped his I say dropped, when he snatched that Roman candle out of his pocket, one of the Roman candles, the ball, flew at our neighbors. Now they country. They got more cars in their yard without tires than they do in their driveway. If the trailer fell, 10 dogs would die. That's country. Country, right? Their front door was a sliding glass door with an old busted porch, old 2x4 porch, old rickety, a small single wide. That was the main matriarch patriarch of that group, and they had an RV that didn't run no more, and someone's living out of that with drop cords coming from the house. I mean, it was country. It was country. If you bought the property, you could make a couple $1,000s off a salvage of just taking all the stuff to the metal shop, right? Taking recycle it. It was that, right? Well, one of those Roman candles shot over to the neighbor, and the neighbor thought we shot it at him, and they had seen us shooting at each other. And I think they were kind of jealous because there was a bunch of country boys over there, and the old men were country too, and so they thought we had attacked them, and they decided that they were not going to allow us to attack them without attacking back. They didn't have Roman candles. They had bottle rockets, but the bottle rockets didn't reach. By the way, half of this story I'm telling you, I didn't know for, oh my gosh, 10, 15 years. Because one day my mama was gardening near the fence where the garden was, and the neighbor was gardening near the fence where their garden plot was kind of near ours. And the two ladies got together and talked, and nobody had talked to anybody. And it was a Hatfields and McCoy feud. We did not, after that night, we did not have conversations at all. At all. We didn't go running down the end of that road. We didn't. Right? It was country. So the women got to talking, and my mom basically told them, it was a mistake. We had an accident. And then they tell the rest of the story. And the rest of the story is hilarious. So they tried to shoot bottle rockets at, didn't do nothing. And then all of a sudden they shot a mortar in our direction. Them tubes, big paper towel rolls. They shot a mortar in our direction about a 40, 45 degree angle. And that joker was screeching across the thing, and it went over the top of us at about, I don't know, felt like 20 feet. It was probably 80, 100 feet. And oh boy, the libation had been moving, and there was no adult supervision worth adulting. We said, all right. They shot a mortar at us. What the hell? Sorry. I went back to my country. And so we were thinking about it. We were talking about it. We were conspiring about it. We had a lot of ammunition. We had tons of mortars. Oh my God. We had mortars that were 1.5 inch wide, which were small ones. We went up to like 3-inch mortars, big, huge tubes of mortars. Oh my God, those mortars were ginormous. And so we started shooting mortars. Well, we didn't. We said, well, maybe it was a bad, shot. Da. Well, then 2 or 3 mortars come flying our way again, and then we're like, oh no. So it went from being fun and funny to, oh no. Now, you had a lot of veterans in our family. Army veterans, Marine veterans, Navy veterans. And there were some other veterans, because veterans hang out with veterans. And so we're all just freaking wired up and ready to go, right? And so we start formulating a military plan of how we were going to attack these people with mortars. And we had a couple more Roman candles left. Well, we start a volley of mortars at our neighbors. My mom was yelling at me, but at that point, we're not listening. So we start shooting these mortars at our neighbors over their head. We're not shooting them at them yet. It's not like 90 degrees straight to the ground and it's shooting like projectiles. We're just gonna tick them off because we're going over the fence line with our mortars, and our mortars are better than theirs. And so, in our guy minds, it's funny. As a guy, we will do things, and maybe you don't. We'll do things that we think are cool as get out to think our wives and our girlfriends. If you have a wife, you don't have a girlfriend. If you have a girlfriend, you don't have a wife. But fill in the blank with whichever one you have. Don't have two. Just one. Pick from one group. Just one. But we think that we'll do these crazy, manly, macho things with no brains, that the women would just find us more attractive. Oh my gosh, my man is just so manly. He is just so wonderful. Oh my goodness. I just can't wait to chew him up. I can't believe that my man's not in a calendar somewhere because he is just the definition of manly. And I just, rawr. So we think. What really happens in a woman's mind is, oh my God, I had kids with this dude. And he's doing this in front of my kids. My kids are going to do this. We're going to die. That's the stupidest idiot in the whole wide world. Now, once they start shooting at us, and the women are Finleys, whether they're married in, because we don't date our sisters or our cousins, but they start to inherit the Finley way, and they're like, oh heck no, that ain't happening. You gonna be shooting? You better do something, right? And so then we are empowered to do crazy stuff. So we start shooting these mortars, and they're high. They're 50, 60 degrees. I mean, they're up there, but we got range. So we're shooting these things over their trailer. And we are calculated because if they would have stopped, we would have stopped, but they just kept on going. Now, we would shoot a dozen and they would shoot one or two because their armament wasn't as good as ours. They didn't have as big an armory as we did. They didn't bring as many rednecks as we did, I guess. And they're setting up in different spots. I mean, they actually have moved to 3 or 4. I mean, they're getting tactical on this. They've got three different spots they're shooting mortars from at different angles, right? All right. Here, you take these, you go there. Here, you take these, go there. And I'll take these and go here, and we'll play this game. Yeah, it got fun, right? We did not think about the consequences. Once again, do not do the things that we do. Well, at this point, the angle started to go from 65, 70 degrees down to 25, 30 degrees. I mean, these things are starting to launch. These things are starting to go over their heads because the fireworks didn't stop, and neither did the adult hydration. And it's getting silly and serious. Well, we that trailer I was telling you about, the sliding glass doors, had old tattered carpet on the inside of it, industrial strength carpet, stuff that's got no shag to it. It's just basically color and scruff. Well, it was war holes in it, and it had big, uh, the rugs that look like rope that's wound over and over and over again on the edge to make it wider. Had one of those in there. Had an old couch. Everybody had these pine wood couches with the cushions of a windmill or something, and you hang a corner and hit that couch, and it would knock your knees out. Well, those things are dry, and that porch was dry, and it was summer, and the weed eaters didn't work over there for some reason, so there was high grass. But to our defense, we couldn't see the front side of the house where the screen door or where the sliding glass door was. All you could see was the back of the trailer, and it had a beach. One of the windows had a beach towel that had Leonard Skinner on it. Another one of the beach towels on one of the other windows had Jack Daniels on it, and one of the other beach towels had something else on it. Right? It was country. Right? and it's all combustible. Burns real good. So the ladies of that house had basically started to go in the house because then it started to get crazy, and they're like, "We're going to sit on the other side of the house and this and that." Well, we're shooting, they're shooting, we're going, they're going, and we had some Roman candles left, and I'm like, "Well, I'm going to pop some Roman candles off." Oh, I said I did. Oops. Somebody's going to pop some Roman candles off and shoot it towards her house because I knew the range wasn't that great. It was. I mean, there was a couple acres between us, and that thing I didn't think had the get up and get it to get that way, but I'll shoot it towards there because Roman candles they have a projectile, and then the projectile goes out, and it's still hard like a rock. And so when it hits the ground, it'll make a thud sound, and it'll hit something. It hits the side of your trailer, it makes a boonk. And I was like, there's no people around there. They're not shooting from that area. They've moved to different defilads, and I'm gonna pop the trailer. It's not gonna set on fire. It's not gonna do anything because it's out. Well, I start popping them off. They start going, and evidently I'm wrong. And evidently my aim wasn't the greatest. So I hit the trailer a couple times, I believe. That's where the story goes. This is a story I heard from years ago. Years later, I should say. And one, at least one, I couldn't have done it if I tried. Dang, I said I did it again. That person couldn't have done it if they tried because that Roman candle round went over the house. Now, it was, I believe, it's hard to see at this point because of all the hydration, but I believe it was out before it went over the trailer because someone trying to cause harm. The person wasn't trying to cause harm. God, Bob, get it right. The individual unnamed, to protect their safety, did not see a flaming projectile or a spark or color or anything like that. But it went over the trailer, landed on the deck. Now, this is a story I was told. Landed on the deck, hit the rail of the deck, what little rail there was, bounced in the sliding glass door, landed on that busted carpet, and set the carpet to fire. You see why I didn't say the name of the person who did it? We didn't know this. So the women in the house put out the fire. There was a burn in the rug. It was still there, evidently, because my mom became friends with that lady, and they went over and she saw the burn in the rug. And she apologized profusely. Oh my gosh, she apologized profusely, and it became funny. It became a joke. We never became friends. But my mom and my stepdad and them, they get together and cook out, or they go out to dinner somewhere, some little country restaurant, and they built a friendship. They did. I think my stepdad went and pulled a couple engines, and the dad over there came over and did some brake jobs on some trucks and stuff at the house. And so they had a relationship, but they let me know so and so's coming over. Don't come over, because we came over about every Sunday because they were still mad at me. My mom would apologize. I wasn't going to apologize. You shot at me first. I didn't mean to shoot at you. You shot at me first. I didn't mean to. That person did not mean to hit your trailer, but it set the trailer on fire. The ground, the wasn't that big of a hole. It was a small burn. I don't even know if it burned all the way through into the carpet, but the carpet was just basically plywood because it was wore out. That's what the rug was for. But it burned in that rug pretty good. I'm told. I never went over there. And they still had that rug 10, 12 years later. So they had to walk over it every day because it was right in the middle of the room. So I'm told. So, well, then it gets serious. It gets serious. We don't know this, but the lady had come out of the house. The big mom had come out of the house, and she told the big dad, hey, they done set our trailer on fire. Well, we don't know all this is going on. We got no clue. It's dark. It's probably 12 o'clock, 11, 12 o'clock now. and we're just having a good time shooting at each other. At this time, we're not mad at each other. We're not mad at them. We just keep going. We've actually kind of pulled off of shooting the fireworks at them. We've gone back up so that everybody can have a good show, and we're just kind of letting it go up in the air over their area as well. And now we're getting into big mortars. We've got rid of the small 1.5-inch mortars. We've got rid of the small 2-inch mortars. We're probably into the 3.5-inch mortars, a big tube mortar. Well, all of a sudden, we get a volley of mortars. They couldn't have that many mortar tubes because those mortar tubes you only get one mortar tube for a dozen shells. And they were shooting 2 or 3 mortar tubes, but they must have ripped up new packs or got PVC pipe or just laid them on the ground or whatever, and they started shooting at us like it was full bore war. They came over at us and they were screamers. They were low on the ground. They were serious. See, we didn't know that somebody had set their trailer on fire. We didn't know. But they did. And they thought we did it on purpose. And so they shot them all off at us. Well, at this point, we're like, what the heck? See, I didn't use the words this time. I did a little better. What the heck? A couple of them went kind of near the bonfire, about 50 feet from the bonfire. That's where the family is. And we're like, oh, no. So we turned those mortar tubes down. We actually got up on one of the decks and we held it on the shoulder like a shoulder fired rocket so that it would scream. And we started going boom, 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 boom. Amazing we didn't set the whole freaking field on fire because that grass was tall, it was dry. Didn't set it on fire, but we were shooting this and that. And finally, a little while later, they quit firing. And so we stopped and they didn't fire anymore. Come to find out they had ran out of shells. And they had come to a decision. They got into a discussion and say, do we need to go get our shotguns? And we'll start shooting over there with shotguns. That's how country we were. And now we had our guns, but luckily common sense ruled the day and they didn't shoot at us because that just would have been awful because of a mistake. That would have been ridiculous. Like I said, don't do the things I do. So then we turned around and we started continuing the rest of our night. We still had a good armload of mortars. And so all of our tubes, because we were firing those tubes, you're supposed to let those tubes rest. Our tubes were blown out. The bottoms were blown out and this and that. We still had a bunch of mortars. We couldn't fire them off. We said, well, heck, we still got the tennis racket. That fuse is long. So we could wait and then somebody would say, go. And then we could launch the mortar, not thinking about the fact that when the mortar comes out of the tube, there's projectile to the back of the mortar and it goes out of the tube, so it goes straight. So the projectile is pointing down so that the mortar goes up and goes off. Well, when you throw it with a tennis racket, you have changed the articulation of the projectile fuel. So you never know where that mortar is going to go. We did that 2 or 3 times, and the ladies started coming out going, no, you're not doing that. You ain't doing that. And so we're like, we still got all these mortars. What the heck are we going to do? We didn't have PVC pipe. I'm still to this day surprised we didn't have chunks of PVC pipe laying around we could make tubes. So we found the tube. We pieced it together. We split it open. We put another tube with it because one side was blown out of one tube, one side was blown out of the other tube. We got a pocket knife and our razor knife. And we cut the tubes open. We ran one tube around the other, made sure there was slop in the tube, ran duct tape around it. Then we could drop mortars down in there. Well, little did we know that when we started shooting off those mortars, that the inside of the tube was burning because it was not slick anymore. It was not coated in that wax or whatever they coat it with. And that edge was catching on fire on the inside and it was causing it to curl up and it was making the barrel tighter and tighter and tighter. So we're getting down to the last, thank goodness, the last 4 or 5. Now we got to shoot these off. And so I have to be in the middle of everything. I do. I can't be a bystander. I have to be the doing the crazy, stupid stuff. It's amazing I still have all my fingers, my eyes, my ears, my nose, my toes. It is. God must have something great for me to do sometime in the future because he's kept me around for a long time with all my silliness and craziness. But little did we know that the actual base of the um, mortar is now tighter than the mortar is. And so we pushed it in. We stuck it in there. It's supposed to just drop in there and go thunk, and then you light it with the fuse, long fuse, and you hold on to it and you go. Well, it's starting to get a little tight. And instead of us thinking, hey, this is tight, we need to fix this, we just got a broom handle that we had laying around and we just kind of poked it down to the bottom, right? Stupid. So I'm holding the mortar tube. Another guy's holding it with me. And it's mounted in the ground. We got it planted in the ground now because you can't hold it because it keeps burning out the sides. And so it's planted in the ground pretty solid. So it's not going anywhere. It's going to go straight up in theory. And so we light it and it starts to make the sound, you know, the long fuse. Psst, you can watch the fuse go down in the tube. Then it goes right, that fuse in the tube. And then you hear a louder shh, and then you hear, and then the mortar launches. Well, then you look up and you look at the pretty explosion. They were getting good. They were getting big. They were getting huge. And this one was green. It was gorgeous green. Big burst, huge mortar. So we put it in the tube. We push it down to the bottom of the tube. We're getting ready to go. I'm standing there with it. And at this point, I'm not walking away because trying to get up and walk away, I have a bigger chance of falling down because of all the adult hydration. And I'm tired. We shot off hundreds and hundreds of mortars, and I just want to sit. Just bring me another one. I'll throw it in there. We'll go. Right. So I'm sitting on the ground with another fella, and we light it, and it goes just fine. And the fuse goes into the tube, just fine. The fuse goes down, just fine. And then you hear the flare at the bottom where it starts to ignite the thing, just fine. And then we hear the thoop, and then we go to look up, but nothing comes up. And there's still this noise in the bottom of the tube going, which really translates into English into get out of the way. This is going to be bad, fellas. Turn on your cameras. Luckily, we didn't have cameras back then. Camera phones were not the thing, and we didn't have any evidence. Thank God there was no evidence when I grew up. Thank God there was no social media back then because I guarantee I'd be doing 10 to 20 at some place, you know, at the Gray Bar Hotel with 3 hots and a cot because I was trouble. Oh. So it did not launch. It's in the tube. This is a big mamma jamma. This one makes a good burst. Not like when you go to the fairgrounds and you watch them professing. Those things like 6-8 inches wide, but this thing is its cousin. It's big. And we stack up to the best for last, right? And we have got less than a half a dozen sitting left on the table, which is always too close to the fireworks. Anyway. So, by the way, before I finish the story, I'm still smoking this Camacho limited edition 2025, and I got to say it's fantastic. I'm not saying that my story would have been any safer if I would have lit my fireworks with this cigar, but you know what? My mouth would have tasted better if I would have had this cigar in my mouth. Absolutely. So for fireworks, for 4th of July, for the grill, I highly recommend you fire up a cigar. If you can, Davidoff Avo, Camacho, Zeno Nicaragua, and Baccarat. Fantastic cigars. They do not condone the things that I do either. They just say we're going to sponsor you for an hour, do your thing. So Camacho is not responsible for any of the content that I say in this show. I had to throw a disclaimer in there. Not that I couldn't see Tom Zybrid, Law Ream, or Jack Heyer not do things like this as well. Because I believe if they would have been there at that bonfire at that age, and we were the same age at that time because they're younger than me. But if we were all the same age doing that, I think they would have been in the middle of the mix as well. I do, because they're just awesome, but they're smarter than I am, and they are now in the cigar industry, and they have to behave as much as possible anyway. So back to that firework that is now bubbling in that tube. It takes about a second for me to dawn on me that this two things are true. This firework is going to go off, and this firework is going to go off right here. Now, I will tell you, do not do this, but it was beautiful. Oh, it was so beautiful. Oh, it was gorgeous. It was amazing. I would not ever do it again. I did not repeat it. I'm glad I walked away from it, but this was amazing. So I looked at the guy, and he was a veteran as well. And the first thing that came out of my mouth, and the only thing, well, an expletive came out of my mouth. Oh, oh wait, I got a button for that. Oh, nope, wrong one. Oh, nope. Oh, God dog it. Oh, I got to work these buttons. Oh, I've got one button left. Shut up. Oh, no, it's the wrong. Oh, there it is. Oh, I did all that for that. Boy, that was not worth that juice was not worth the squeeze. But so I said, oh, poop. And then I yelled, grenade. Now, in the military, when a grenade is near you and it doesn't get thrown and it gets dropped, what you're supposed to do is hang on. Sorry, got to sneeze. Is you drop to the ground, put your feet to the grenade, and you cover your head. And you push your body as far away from, because grenades go up more at an angle. So you should be safe, even though your grenade is right there. So I looked at the guy and I yelled grenade, and instantly we both turned away from the grenade, from the mortar, put our feet to the mortar, but I didn't turn my head all the way. I actually looked up because I wanted to see what was going on. And when that thing went off, out of that tube came the most gorgeous green, sparkly umbrella I've ever seen. We were covered in a dome of green sparks. And then all around us, the sparks, when they went and they blew off green, they hit the ground and they said, and it was gorgeous. Oh, it was amazing. And I came up somewhat scared. Pants were not soiled. I was surprised. But I said, whoa, no, let's do it again. I said, let's not. And I stepped on top of the tubes to break the tube so that we couldn't do it anymore, because we're at the point of somebody was going to die, right? We're going to have to walk slowly and carry a big casket after a while. We're all big fellers, so we don't want to carry nothing like that anyway. But that is my rendition of what not to do with fireworks at 4th of July. Now, what you should do, whether you're setting off fireworks, whether you're celebrating 4th of July or anything, you should smoke a cigar. Absolutely. Bring a couple extra when you're hanging out this weekend at 4th of July, because it's going to be a great time. I'll tell you what, if you laughed, leave me a comment. If you shook your head, leave me two. Right? Have a great day. Remember, we go to work so that we can live. We don't live so we can go to work. So when you're off the clock, spend some time living that life with the people who love you and the people you love. Make those memories, not these memories. Make some good memories. If you've got some great fireworks stories and some great memories, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to know. I highly recommend you not having your children listen to this episode, because they might say, that's cool, let me try. Don't do it. Tell my stories, don't live them. I highly recommend that. But whatever you do, we only get this world one time. Live it well. Live it full. Live life bold. Camacho, right? Good closing. I got 30 seconds left, and I just want to tell you, 249 years this country's been around. So glad it's here. So glad that freedom is the most main important thing that we have. Freedom and being fair to each other. So be fair to each other and use your freedoms. And one of the great freedoms you can have is to smoke a cigar when you want to. So want to. Share some with friends. I've got 6 seconds, so I'm going to go. I'll see you later. I love you. I really do. Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. Later, Tater.